What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Midweek Market Watch. This is the ongoing series where I talk about the Riftbound Market, and we have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to jump right in. I actually have to make it to a Nexus night in like an hour and a half, but I have to drive there, so we're going to try to speed through all the different updates here. Big takeaways from this video is that everything's crashing. The market is finally correcting. A lot of cards are basically plummeting in price, and only a couple of things are going up, and we're gonna get into it. Before we get started, I want to shout out Diego, a friend of mine who I met at one of our local Nexus nights. He gave me some masala chai, so I'm drinking it right now, and I wanted to give him a quick shout out. So thank you, Diego. Let's get into sealed product. The booster displays are actually down a little bit. $250 for a booster box. It's a lot lower than it was a couple weeks ago. I think it got up to like 300 at one point. Still way over MSRP. MSRP again is like 120. If you find it at 150, you're probably still pretty happy. But 250 is still a lot, but it has fallen $11 in the last 7 days. A booster display case has gone up just slightly, well, $50 if you call that slight, but in the grand scheme of things, it's only 3% on the booster display cases. Booster packs are down quite a bit, down 20%, now sitting around $13. And again, these packs are worth about $5 most of the time when you open them. You're not going to find anything in them worth more than $5. So I still don't think that $13 is a good price for a booster pack. So my recommendation is still just to spend your money on singles, build your decks one by one. It's going to be a lot cheaper than trying to hit the things you need by buying booster packs. The Jinx starter deck down to $28. The Lee Sin one down to $30. These are slight drops from last week. And then Victor has also fallen just a tad. It's $46, so still pretty expensive compared to the other two. But yeah, these are retailing, I think, around $20, $25, depending on where you are. So yeah, way over retail. Proving Grounds, $230. This has gone up about $15 since last week. And is there anything else here? And I guess there are Spirit Forge pre-orders, but we don't need to talk about that. Okay. When it comes to the singles, now here's something interesting. If I hide sealed product, hide promos, and then I also hide overnumbers, and we look at, oh, no, I don't think I did it right. Only promos. There we go. No promos, no overnumbers. If I hide those three categories of things from these graphs, you're going to see that nothing has gone up in the last 7 days for high value. Zenith Blade is the only thing, and it's gone up 11 cents. So that's probably just a mild fluctuation. I doubt it's actually significant enough to be considered a growth, and everything else is dropping. You see massive drops across the board for high-value stuff. The Kaisa Survivor Alt Art down $25. Dead Bloom down 19. White Flame down 15. The regular Kaisa down 15. Baited Hook has dropped 35%. 35%, guys. That's crazy. Down $11, now sitting around 22. Dazzling Aurora down to 55. Flash down to 45. All of these high-value cards have just fallen off a cliff in the last week. And the reason, of course, is that Wave 2 has hit stores across the country. I know a lot of stores near me have gotten their Wave 2 allocations. They're selling a little bit of product, but also saving some product for tournament support until Spirit Forge comes out. So yeah, that Wave 2 hit, and these prices have just fallen off a cliff, and I am so happy, because now finally people can start playing the decks they want to play and not be priced out of it. Again, some of these cards are still pretty expensive. Dead Bloom at $80 for a card is still really high, but it's not the $100, $120 that it was before, so we're pretty happy about that. If we look at the mid-value category, you'll see that some of these mid-value cards have gone up. And I want to make a note that these are the foil versions of these cards. So foils are going up, foil Rebuke, foil Scrap Heap, foil Retreat. Like all of these are just the foil versions. And these have gone up slightly. Rebuke is $5, Scrap Heap's $9, Retreat's $13, Singularity at $8.50. And then also the some of the legends from Proving Grounds have had slight increases. I mean, 60 cents, 35 cents for Annie. Like these are not incredibly significant increases for those two cards. And even some of those increases on those foils is very small, right? $1 here, $1 there. So nothing crazy for mid-value increases, but for decliners, we have some pretty significant drops. The Calm Rune, the green alt art, is down $5, now sitting at 17. Blast of Power has dropped. This card climbed a ton last week because of the Proving Grounds panic, as people thought that they wouldn't be able to get their hands on the commons from Proving Grounds boxes. But this card is correcting. It's now down $4.60, sitting at 13. The Seal of Insights, all of the seals have dropped. Seal of Insight down to 12. Seal of Rage down to 19. Seal of Strength down to 8. $8 for an orange seal. That's insane. It's dropped 32%. Green Seal of Focus is down to $14. Bullet Time's down to 20. Siphon Power down to 8.30. All of these cards are just dropping. Just like all the high value stuff, you're seeing drops across the board. When you get into low value, only a couple of cards have jumped significantly. Brynhir Thundersong saw something pretty interesting. So she just like skyrocketed in the last 7 days from like $1.30 all the way up to $6 or $5.50, it looks like. And the reason for this is market manipulation. It's not an actual like price increase. It's not like someone found a broken combo from Spirit Forged. It's literally just because someone went in and bought out the card on TCG Player or eBay or wherever. And so now it's just like hard to find. So it's a buyout. This is clear market manipulation. The card is not worth $5. This is the worst time to try to buy Brynhir, and you can already see it starting to fall. So I'm confident that Brynhir will be coming right back down to like the $1, $2 mark. Don't give into the hype of, or the panic of buying a Brynhir now because the price seems to be going up. It's not actually going up. This is going to fall back down. What else has gone up? Nothing really. Like all of these increases here are like pennies, like penny value increases in the low value category. So nothing significantly changing there. When it comes to decliners, you see Tasty Faithful has dropped a little bit. Well, it's actually, these are pretty significant percent decreases. I mean, 40% drop on Tasty Faithful down to $4. So that's pretty crazy. A 30% drop with Kiana down to $4.50. Machine Evangel dropped 45%. It's like price cut in half from like $3 to $1.50. Kind of nuts. Vi has gone down to about $1.60. Yellow Darius is down to like $3.50. Mundo's down. Primal Strength is down. These ones aren't as crazy of a drop, but everything's falling, guys. It's great to see. The world is healing. The world is healing. Let's go through different categories. So, alt arts. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. The Kaisa alt art. This card climbed all the way up to, where did it peak? $147. And then now it's slowly correcting back down again. Currently sitting at 117. That's a 17% decrease from last week. Darius Trifarian hasn't changed much. Still sitting around that $20 mark, hovering there. Set Brawler also sitting around that $22 mark. These cards are some of the ones that haven't seen like significant percent decreases, are the alt arts on champion units. But once we get into the epic cards, you're going to see some much greater drops there. So Misfortune still hovering around 20. RA Inquisitive at 18. BMO at 11. The two Leonas still hovering around $10. Yasuo Windrider at 10, and then everything else at $10 or less. Let's talk about epics. So one way that I personally like to gauge the market is just to look at the epic cards, because I think these are kind of the pillars for a lot of decks, right? Dazzling Aurora is a centerpiece. It's a whole deck archetype unto itself. Deadbloom defines the decks that it's in, whether that be Yi or MF Aurora, or I don't think it's being played anywhere else, but I guess you could play it in Volibear. Time Warp, right, is found in Kaisa. White Flame in Yi. Invert Timelines, I think, is played in Teemo, but also it's played in MF Aurora. So a good way to evaluate market like shifts is just to look at the epic cards and see what they're doing. And when you take a look here, everything is falling pretty much across the board. Some of these slight increases aren't actual increases. Like, yeah, they're very tiny. But like, for example, if I looked at the Seal of Discord price, look at this graph here. Like, it's still a massive decline. Only in the last day or so has this climbed just a tad. But I think that's just because of some Spirit Forge deck lists that came out that are running this seal. It's still a pretty significant drop in the long term for this card. So yeah, across the board, epics are falling. Kaisa Survivor down to 100. Deadbloom's fallen to $80, which is insane. This is I think the lowest it's ever been. If we take a look at the TCG player graph, look at this. Like, in the 3-month span, it got all the way up to 116. And then you see this giant like crash here as it comes all the way back down to $80. And this is the cheapest price it's been basically since launch. I mean, at launch, it kind of just rose. So at one point it was 80, sure, but it got up to 100 and just sat there for the last couple of months. So really cool to see Deadbloom falling and getting less expensive and more accessible to people who want to try the control style of deck. Time Warp at 66. This hasn't changed that much. Dazzling Aurora has changed, 16% down to 55. This is great because if people want to try out Aurora decks before Spirit Forge comes out, now maybe they're not going to be as priced out of it as they were. White Flame down to 37, a 28% drop. Like, that's crazy. Invert Timelines at $32. Seal of Unity at $30. Baited Hook has seen probably the biggest drop that we've seen across all of the epics at 35%. This card was, I think it got up to like 35. Where's its peak here in the 90 days? It got up to 45 at one point. This is like mid-December, early December. And then it has now crashed all the way back down to $21, which is really cool. Seal of Rage down to 19, Set Brawler at $18. And then actually all of the seals have fallen pretty significantly. Unchecked Powers down to 12. And then, yeah, if you look at all of these epics, all of them are dropping in price. Take a look at the rares. Thousand-Tailed Watcher still leading the pack. You know, it's still the most valuable rare card in the entire set, but it has dropped 23% all the way down to $26. This card got up to, I think, 40 at one point. Actually, it got all the way up to $50, which is insane. But ever since the end of November, it's just been slowly losing monetary value all the way down to 26. Seems like a great time to buy Watcher, guys, if I'm being honest. If you need this for your blue decks, if you're trying to theory craft for Spirit Forged, seems like a good time. Maybe it'll keep falling, but this is the lowest price it's been in months. So very cool to see that. Zanya's down to $10, Darius Trifarian down to $9, Annie Stubborn down to $6. Mind Splitter, again, this card was $5, climbed all the way up to $10, and now it's right back down to $5. This has dropped 25% in the last week. Absolutely insane. Falling Star at $5.70, Sabotage at $5, Brynhir at $5, and everything else is under $5. Again, Kiana and Tasty saw some pretty massive drops in the last couple of days, so really neat. Take a look at signature spells. Showstopper, still the most expensive, but now at $38, and then a Cathian Rain at $28, Zenith Blade at $24. This hasn't changed much. Bullet Time and Mega Death Rocket have both dropped. Bullet Time at $20, and then Super Mega Death Rocket down to $14, and then everything else at like $11 or less in the signature spells. Take a look at runes really quick. The alt art runes have all seen some drops. The purple rune is now the most valuable rune at $23.60. Mind and Fury both dropped pretty hard, down to $22 and $21 respectively. Columns down to $17, Order at $17, and then Body at $16. So all of these have lost a little bit of value. I think this is because these are going to be reprinted in Spirit Forged. Like Spirit Forged packs can have these runes in them, and the only difference is going to be there's going to be a slightly different lettering at the bottom left. So it'll still be the same artwork, same foil pattern, everything. It'll just say Spirit Forged or whatever that acronym is in the bottom left-hand corner, and it'll have a different number. But aside from that, these are going to be found in that second set, which is neat because it gives people time to bling out their decks. People don't have to worry about grabbing the Origins exclusive runes. They're going to be in the next set as well, and I'm very happy about it. I'm going to enable promos so we can talk about promos. The promo runes, first of all, these have mostly dropped except for the Chaos rune. So Chaos is up to $27, which is crazy. Blue and purple have both fallen pretty significantly, just like the alt art runes, down to $21 and at $17 for Fury. Calm down to $16, Body at $13, and the Poor Order rune is down to $10. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that Order was the weakest color in Origins, but they're getting some pretty good stuff in the next set. So we'll have to see what happens with that color when set 2 comes out. If we take a look at the other like main deck promo cards, so the GG Easy Teemo has skyrocketed, and I mean like really taken off. This price graph, you know, when it got up to like $375, I was like, it's going to come down, guys. It's going to come down because they're going to print more. And then it did come down. It did fall. I was kind of right. For a little bit, it got down to $287. Now the hype train for this card has just like gone through the roof. And in the last 7 days, it's climbed all the way from like, I think it was like 350, 400 last week. And now it's at 550 and still climbing. So I don't know if this card is actually worth that much money, like in the long run, in the grand scheme of things. We still don't know if they're going to reprint this. They haven't confirmed or denied whether this is going to be like reprinted in the future. But people seem pretty convinced that it's not, and that it's going to hold its value, and it's going to be like the collector's item from set 1. So remains to be seen. A buddy of mine pulled like 2 of these last week. He pulled one and then went to another Nexus night and pulled a second one in the span of like a couple of days. He sold one for like $550 and was able to get a ton of value out of it. He was able to build a couple of decks that he wanted to try out. He got a couple of really high value cards that he wanted to put into his existing decks to make them better. So yeah, I mean, if you have this card and you're really just more interested in playing the game, it's worth a lot right now. And it's kind of up to you if you want to hold on to it and see if it climbs any more. It probably, I would guess it probably will climb a little bit more. But if you're really just like, you know, chomping at the bit to get into the game and play, and you've opened this card, might be a good time to sell it and then spend those hundreds and hundreds of dollars on product. Singles, not sealed product, because if you buy sealed product, the chances that you're getting your value back now are much, much lower with all of these price drops. So definitely invest that money into singles and build your decks that way. Other promos that have gone up a little bit, the Riot Fist Bump promo up to 184, the Ari launch exclusive promo up to 121. This actually saw some pretty giant spikes too. I think it dropped pretty significantly back in November. Yeah, it was up to like $170, dropped down to like 80, and now it's slowly climbing again. It's up to 120. So I don't know. Maybe that one will also be like a highly sought after promo card from the Origins era, right, from set 1. But we'll have to see. The Heimerdinger Judge exclusive promo is 113, and then a lot of these like stamp promos haven't seen like crazy changes. I guess I should call out this Jinx Rebel one. The Jinx Rebel promo was like, oh man, what was it? $20, and now it's like been cut in half, basically down to like 12. So pretty significant drops on that one, but everything else here is like not that big of a change. And then finally, we're going to talk about overnumbers. I know I did this all out of order, so I apologize for that. But overnumbers are the only things that are either holding their value or still going up. So Kai'Sa still at the top, followed by Ahri. Notice that the Misfortune, the third place signed overnumbered, is $740, and that's like half of what Ahri is. And then the Kai'Sa one is just like through the roof. Like that's the most expensive one, obviously. And it's probably going to stay that way. Set down to 680, and then Set, Jinx, Lee Sin all in the 600s. Yasuo and Leona also in 600s. Teemo, Victor, and Volibear in the 500 range. And then Darius still sitting at the bottom in the US at $480. Again, these are the signed versions. If we look at the unsigned versions, Ahri is still at the top at 200. The Kai'Sa is 190, so closing that gap just a little bit. And one big change here that I noticed is that the Victor overnumbered, or I guess I should say the Victor Showcase Legend, because that's the technical term now. But the Victor Showcase is up to 127. If we look at that Victor graph, it's going to be blinding. Yeah, whew, that's so white. This has dropped from $110 all the way down to 90, and then in the last couple of days, it's climbed up to 123. So this Victor Showcase is the highest it's been, but a lot of these are kind of maintaining the same price they've been for a while. So not too much change in the normal showcases. All right, we will quickly talk about the European market. So booster boxes in Europe have gone up and continued to go up. The current price trend is like €240 for a booster box. If we look at Dead Bloom Predator, I just pulled out a couple of cards here that I think are accurate indicators for the European market. Dead Bloom has been falling very steadily. You see like it's very zigzaggy, but still hovering between like the 54 and €70 mark. This whole graph is between that price range. And right now it's about 55, maybe 60 for a Dead Bloom Predator in Europe. If we look at Dazzling Aurora, another card that has seen some pretty steady declines. Current average is like €32 for a single copy of Dazzling Aurora. But that is that's the English version. The Chinese versions are even cheaper. If you want to play the Chinese version, it's down to like 14, 15. Looking at White Flame Protector, again, this is down to like $40 US, maybe 37 today. In Europe, it's like €30 for a White Flame Protector, and you can get a Chinese version for about 20. Thousand-Tailed Watcher has also seen some steady declines, all the way down to like €26. This is a staple in basically every blue deck that needs finishing power, so Victor, Teemo, Kai'Sa, and it's going to be played in blue decks in the next set as well, for sure, just because of how good it is. This card, though, down to $26 in the US. So it's actually like the US price was higher than the European price. But if you do the conversion, the European price is actually more expensive now. So that's pretty interesting. Stack Deck, this is a card that actually has gone up. I don't know if this is the foil version. I would suspect that this is the foil and not the normal, because like €4 for a single like uncommon card is a lot. So it's up to €430. Flash, this is a cool price graph to just follow along with. Flash actually got all the way up to like €34. This was over Christmas time, and then it just kind of dropped, and so now it's sitting around 24, a much better price for Flash in the European market. And then Annie, the champion unit, has also continued to fall all the way back down to €375. So a lot of changes in the European market, but I think across the board, we're seeing just a big price correction in both Europe and in the States because of Wave 2 hitting. And it's really cool to see. I'm super happy that prices are actually coming down for this game, because it's allowing more people to play the game and actually get into it and learn it and come out to Nexus Nights and be part of the community. It's been really cool to see. So hopefully this trend continues. I'm actually fine with the promos and the overnumbers continuing to go up, because those are going to be collector's items regardless, right? I'm far more concerned with the playable cards falling in price. And this is the first time, I think, since launch that we've seen drops like this significant. So it's really great that all these price corrections are happening and that the game is getting less expensive. But that's the Riftbound Market Watch for this week. Let me know in the comments below if you're able to find product, or if you've been able to see these corrections live, and if you're able to get into the game or been able to try out new decks. I've been having a blast reading everyone's comments on other videos and seeing how people's experiences have been with this game, and hopefully it continues. Hopefully people are able to get into it more now that prices are finally coming down. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that button. I'm currently running a giveaway on one of my other videos. I'll put a link to it on the screen somewhere. It was a booster box opening, but as soon as I hit 2K subscribers, I'm gonna pick a second winner for that giveaway, so check out the details on that. And yeah, this is just a great place to keep tabs on the Riftbound Market and keep your finger on the pulse of it, especially as we move into the next set coming out in about a month. It'll be a great way to keep track of everything. So thanks so much to people who keep coming back and watching my content. It's been really cool to see the channel grow, and I appreciate all the comments. Again, I read every single comment that's on these videos, and it's been really neat to see the Riftbound community just continue to grow and grow with every passing day. So thanks again, and until the next video, peace.